Hi, welcome to the chaining portion of the RBT module. Today we'll learn about one of three types of chaining procedures and how to identify when the procedure is done correctly or incorrectly. Let's get started with a short video.
I'm done. Can we go outside?
Yeah, just tie your shoes.
Oh. Hold. Gotta put an X. Then you go in. Tight. The loop. Close. And you pull.
Good job, tie your shoes. Let's go.
In this video, you saw Austin asked to go play outside, but he had to tie his shoes before he could go play outside. The teacher, which is the guy in the fancy shorts over here, told him to tie his shoes. Once Austin successfully tied his shoes, he could go play outside. Now what you may have noticed from the video, or your own experience with it, is that tying shoes is a long behavior. It requires multiple small steps to complete the behavior of tying shoes. For example, Austin had to grab both laces, make an X, loop one lace around the other, and so on. This can be a rather difficult skill to teach someone with traditional teaching strategies. However, if you were to break the act of tying shoes into each of those individual smaller steps, teaching will be much easier. Then you can link or chain, hint hint, each of those smaller behaviors in a sequential order. This is what we call chaining. Yes, chaining, the wonderful procedure that is typically used to teach people to tie their shoes, brush their teeth, change their oil, and even dance. Now, like I said before, we will be covering one of the three chaining methods, and the one you will be learning about today is forward chaining. Before I get into the procedures, we have to go over something called a task analysis. So what is a task analysis? I'm glad I asked. A task analysis is a list of broken down steps that comprise the long, complex behavior that you are trying to teach. So do you remember how Austin was learning to tie his shoes? Well, a task analysis for his shoe tying would look something like this. Here you will see the individual steps that Austin would have learned to perform to be able to completely tie his shoes on his own. As you can see, the steps start with him grabbing both of his laces, then making the X, and looping the lace through the hole. This continues until the last step where he has to pull both laces tightly to complete his tying of shoes. A task analysis like this allows for someone to make sure to teach the same steps exactly the same way to make learning the steps easier. The best thing about the task analysis is that the list of steps also becomes your data sheet where you can take data on the learner's progress. This becomes very important when we are learning to teach using the chaining procedures. Let's have some check-in questions to make sure I'm making sense.